Hey everyone, it's Nancy from my Friendly Neighborhood CEC. Actually, that's a lie. Today I am not at the CEC because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're all experiencing a crazy time in our lives, and us at the CEC, the Career Employment Center, it's no different. Today I am live from my home office, and I'm here to talk to you about everyone's favorite time of the year. That's right, student loan season. That time of the year is upon us already, and normally at the CEC we would make one-on-one appointments with students and or their parents, and we would walk you through the student loans, what you need to know, what documents you need, and we answer your questions on a one-on-one basis. However, because of the precautions and measures that we have to take, because of what's going on, we won't be able to do that this year. So we had to find a different way to do things. And of course, now with Facebook and Messenger and YouTube, there's a million ways we can get to you. So the next best thing to meeting us in person is hanging out with me in your own home, on your phone, your computer, in your pajamas. How awesome is that?
You need to know, we are not the experts. We don't work for the student loans. We work for the Career and Employment Center. We do the best we can with the information and resources that are provided to us. We've been helping students since 2015, and every year we try to adapt and evolve and get better. If we can't answer your questions, we'll find someone who can. On your screen, you'll see the toll-free numbers for the New Brunswick Student Financial Services as well as the National Student Loan Services Center. These are the provincial and federal service centers. If you want to know more about what financial programs are available to you, you can call your local Working NB office to speak with an employment counselor. On your screen, you'll find the numbers for the Campbellton, Grand Falls, and Edmundston offices. And despite the pandemic, our CEC agents are still ready and willing to help you. So go ahead and like their Facebook page, whether the CEC Restigouche, the Grand Falls CEC, or the Edmundston CEC. Finally, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to like our videos and subscribe to our channel. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions, send me an email to nancy.power@r-2.ca or comment on any of our social media pages.
All right, let's get started. You will need to go to the www.studentaid.gnb website. That is the Government of New Brunswick's student loan website. If you're at home on a computer, you can access the website by typing in studentaid.gnb.ca in your Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Mozilla Firefox browser. You'll see that the website is very accessible. If you're on your phone, you can use Safari if you're on Apple, or you can use the Google Chrome or the Google search bar if you're on Samsung or Android. The website is just as easily accessible on your cell phone as it is on the computer, and pretty much everything in the application can be done from the comfort of your couch. Before you get to the application, however, there are a few things you need to know. How do the student loans work? The student loans are divided into two separate funding. Part of your loan comes from the provincial government, and the other part of your loan comes from the federal government. However, you only need to do one application in order to get evaluated for both of these. Your assistance is calculated by reviewing your income, and possibly the income of your parents or common law partner, versus how much it's going to cost you for the school year. Remember, student loans need to be applied for every year, and the allowable costs are looked at only for the current year. There are 4 important steps before you start your student loan application. Make sure you know what course you are taking. You don't have to be accepted yet, but it is important to know what course you will be taking and at what institution. Your college or university needs to be a designated institution with the student loans, and you can see this list on the student loan website. Make sure to do your taxes for the current year.
That means if your application is for the 2020-2021 school year, your taxes for the 2019 school year must be done. Every year we have several parents tell us, well, my child didn't work this year, so it will be zero everywhere, and we didn't get his taxes done. In order to be evaluated by the student loans, they need the total income of the applicant, more specifically line 150, indicated on the Canada Revenue Agency Notice of Assessment. If you want to be evaluated for the student loans, your taxes must be done as they need to find you in the Canada Revenue Agency system. Determine what student category you belong to. It can be tricky, so we'll be exploring this over the next couple of slides, but it is important as it will determine what documents you need in order to apply. Finally, get all your documents together and then you'll be ready to apply for your student loan. Make sure you have everything in hand before you begin, as sometimes the student loan website will kick you off if it times out. Here are a few things that are mandatory for everyone, regardless what category you fall under. You will need your social insurance number, your income tax return for the current year, or your Canada Revenue Agency Notice of Assessment. Make sure you have a valid email address which you can then check to verify your account. A permanent mailing address, such as your parents' place or another address that is secure enough that your loan papers will not be lost. And finally, information on the educational institution you plan on attending, which course you're enrolled in, and how much your course load is. Are you full-time or part-time? Now, how do you find out what student category you belong to? Before we look at the categories, here's some random things you need to know about the terminology. Single does not mean you have a boyfriend or girlfriend. On your taxes, did you file as a single person or a married or common law person? Dependent and independent have nothing to do with living at your parents' house. You can be considered an independent student while still living at your parents', or vice versa. If you are dependent or married or common law applicant, you can choose to apply for the New Brunswick and Canada student loans, or just the New Brunswick loans. The New Brunswick loans only look at the applicant's income and is assessed as such. The Canada student loans include the income of your partner or your parents or guardians in order to assess or evaluate. It is up to you to determine which funding you would like. You fall into the single dependent student if you've been out of high school for less than 4 years before you start university or college. You have not worked full-time for 2 periods of 12 months in a row, or you have no children and are not married or common law. Most students graduating high school immediately fall into the single dependent category. If you've been out of school more than 4 years, it will be a different category. If you are not married or common law, but have custody of one or more children at least 50% of the time, so if you have sole custody, full custody, or the majority custody of any children, you fall under the single parent category. If you are considered a dependent student, on top of the things you will need, you will also need your parent or guardian's social insurance number and their birth date. You will also need their tax return for the current year or their CRA notice of assessment. If you have siblings, you will also need their birth dates. If one of your siblings is at university or college, you will also need to provide their social number as well. If you're a single parent, you will need the birth dates of each one of your children, as well as the social insurance number of any child you have at a post-secondary institution. You are considered a married student or common law student if you are either legally married, receiving social assistance as a family unit from the Department of Social Development, If you're in a common law relationship and claimed your marital status as common law on your income tax return, or if you are the parent of one or more dependent children and have physical custody and responsibility for the dependent children who live with you and your partner. If you are married or common law, you will need your partner's social insurance number, their birth date, the birth date of any children you two have together, the social insurance number of any children at post-secondary studies, as well as the partner's tax return for the current year. More specifically, line 150 in the Canada Revenue Agency Notice of Assessment. Finally, you are considered a single independent student if you have any of the following listed on the screen. It can be the most tricky of the categories to determine, but basically, if you are not married or common law, if you do not have children, if you are not a single parent, and you are not directly out of high school, you most likely fall under the independent category, especially if you've been out of school for more than 4 years, or if you've been on the workforce for at least 2 years or 12 consecutive months times 2. Additionally, if you are not a Canadian citizen, or rather you are a permanent resident or protected person of Canada, you will also need the date that you arrived in Canada as well as the date you arrived in New Brunswick. Our most common question at the CEC is, how long do student loans take? You need to apply as soon as you can. The applications come out the first week of June, and communication with student loans can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So the sooner you apply, the sooner you can get a response, and the sooner you can get your money in September. However, keep in mind that any mistake or problem on your end can delay your loan 6 to 8 extra weeks. So be vigilant and watch your dates. Don't forget that if you have questions we can't answer, you can always contact the New Brunswick Student Loan Financial Services at the following numbers and addresses. Stay tuned for our next video, which will be logging in an account creation for your loan.